Sylvie of the multiple award-winning The Queen Sylvie Show. You want to expand and get noticed? Then come outside your box and into our world. Internet advertising has a real impact on global awareness and even sales, so let's make an impact together. Offering for a limited time advertising and sponsorship packages that excel your purpose. So contact Queen Sylvie or Smooth Tim for the exciting opportunities that awaits. Yeah.
Are you tired of driving around a dirty car? Say hello to the ultimate solution for your car. Quick Auto Detail, home, work, or wherever. Their mobile car spa will clean and shine your car anytime and anywhere. Their products are gentle on your car's paint, and they use only the highest quality materials. Book your appointment now.
Hey kids, how would you like to hear this on the screen instead of the great show you came to see? That's what you sound like. Honest. Please cooperate and do your part in keeping this theater quiet so everyone, including you, can enjoy it. Remember, lots of adults and kids, too, paid admission to enjoy the show. We must insist on absolute quiet.
Oh,
Okay, what would make you a great lifeguard?
I am comfortable working shirtless and love rescuing people from threats. Look, out in the water, those dolphins are Nazis!
Next.
So, what the fuck is it you even do here? It's like totally inefficient. It's like, why can't all these people just save themselves?
Next.
Well, I'd like to remove all the people from this strip of beach and then...
Okay, next question. Are there any limitations on your ability to work as a lifeguard?
None. I will happily slide into a lifeguard seat that has been left empty.
Here in the metaverse, the only thing we're drowning in is community.
Wait, I had to keep people from dying on this job? Why?
Your data shows many people are drowning. Well, you're fired.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Hey. Welcome to another hump day on Tim's Tidbits. I certainly do appreciate you tuning on in. Hopefully making your Wednesday evening just a tad bit better. Put a smile on your face going into the weekend while we take a look at what the hell's going on actually around the world. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in last week. Appreciate you viewing in and appreciate you tuning in this week also. And hey, let's just get right into the show tonight. And we talked a little bit last week about Texas and their redistricting. They finally got the Democrats back into the House down there so they could finalize the vote on redistricting. And you know that Gavin Newsom in California, the governor there, is talking about, well, we can do tit for tat. We can redistrict here in California. Well, it seems that anytime that, the Republicans may lose a congressional seat, it kind of gets that side fired up. And Trump got fired up enough, I believe, the last time this happened, he called it or referred to it as weaponizing the government against people. And so here's what's going on is in regards to the redistricting attempt in California, Trump figures he would get the Department of Justice after them when it comes to redistricting in California. So I don't know how that's not weaponizing the government against somebody, but check it on out. Let's see what's going on with what we'll call the redistricting wars.
The redistricting battle between Republicans and Democrats continues tonight. President Donald Trump now says the Department of Justice is planning to sue the Golden State. ABC 10 News reporter Ava Kirshner has been following the political showdown. She explains how this could challenge the special election.
The Department of Justice jumping in on the fight. President Trump announcing on Monday that he plans to sue the state of California over its redistricting efforts. This as a special election is moving forward. Residents will vote on new congressional maps for the Golden State in November.
Where there's a redistricting plan, there's almost always a lawsuit following it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that anything was illegal about the redistricting process.
Political experts calling the White House's move expected. President Trump saying on Monday he is, quote, going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon in response to Newsom's redistricting battle. The mid-decade push was originally made by Republicans in the Lone Star State to gain 5 more GOP seats. Now, as the Golden State drew up new maps to do the same for Democrats, the number of Republicans could be cut down from 9 representatives to 5, but not without pushback from the top.
When the Department of Justice sues, that brings a lot of resources with it. It brings a lot of lawyers in Washington, D.C.
But the grounds to sue were not made clear just yet.
It would be more surprising, but perhaps there could be a voting rights aspect of the Trump administration's suit against California. This is being embraced by many Californians who see it as a way to finally fight back against the Trump administration. And I think this lawsuit by the Trump administration, if it's ultimately unsuccessful, it feeds that narrative.
According to ABC 10 Survey USA poll, 52% of registered voters polled supported the state's plan to redistrict. 49% said they would vote yes if the special election to override the independent commission was held today.
Well, this special election is really moving from a theoretical question about how districts should be drawn in California, what the right way is to do redistricting. It's moving from that to California versus Donald Trump, Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump.
Now, if the maps are approved, they'll be in effect for the 2026, 2028, and 2030 congressional elections. After that, the map drawing power will go back to the Independent Redistricting Commission.
Interesting. So, yeah, it's going to be a redistricting war. And it'd be interesting if they levy a lawsuit against California in regards to redistricting. Why wouldn't that apply also to Texas, who's doing it? I mean, how can you pick and choose your battles because one happens to be a red state and one happens to be a blue state? I guess that's the criteria that you need to meet. And speaking of the criteria you need to meet, it seems that we all know that Trump has the National Guard deployed in Washington, D.C., which is a Democratic controlled ran city, predominantly Democrat. And he's also talking about some other cities, in California that need some help or assistance because their crime wave is, ridiculously high too. Even though Washington, D.C.'s crime rate was statistically way down, but still that's the reason he cited for, deploying the National Guard troops in D.C. Who knows if that's not the reasoning he's going to try to invoke when he wants to deploy these National Guards in other cities. But let's see how all this is playing out for us right now in D.C. and maybe into some other cities and villages near you.
Tonight, President Trump threatening to expand his National Guard surge in Washington, D.C. to include other Democratic-run cities like Baltimore. In a post on social media, Trump, writing Maryland Governor Wes Moore, asked that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. If Wes Moore needs help, I will send the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C., and quickly clean up the crime. Governor Moore previously hailing Baltimore's recent decline in violent crime and telling Trump to keep the city's name, quote, out of your mouth. And responding to the president on CBS's Face the Nation.
The reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics.
Days before, touting his surge of federal law enforcement and mobilization of nearly 2,000 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C., Trump promising Chicago would be next.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. and it won't even be tough.
But Chicago police data showing violent crime in the Windy City is down compared to this time last year. At a block party Saturday, Mayor Brandon Johnson responding.
What's being painted by the federal government is false. We love one another. We support one another. We put our arms around one another. We invest in one another because we know that we are our best keepers of one another.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker also pushing back, saying that
Mr. President, do not come to Chicago.
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker warned President Donald Trump against sending the National Guard to Chicago.
You are neither wanted here nor needed here.
Speaking to reporters in Chicago, Pritzker rallied against Trump's proposal to use the National Guard the same way he'd used it in Washington, D.C., arguing that such a deployment wasn't needed.
We have made no requests for federal intervention. None. We found out what Donald Trump was planning the same way that all of you did.
Trump has long derided the situation in Chicago, complaining of its Democratic administration and crime. He took his criticism one step further recently, saying the city was, quote, a mess, and might require the use of active duty troops.
If we're going to make our cities very, very safe, Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next.
Right. Straighten that one out. D.C. didn't need straightened out, Donnie. Chicago doesn't need straightened out. New York doesn't need straightened out. These cities are just fine. They've been running for hundred years without any of your assistance. And or you putting, the National Guard, armed National Guard, that's what they're talking about if you've been catching the talk on the TV. They want to train and arm some of these people so they can actually enforce the laws. I think we're borderline going into definitely some violations of our constitutional rights here. And speaking of a violation of our constitutional rights, we all have the freedom of speech. You know, that is guaranteed in our constitutional rights. And there's a lot of ways that people do express, their disconcern for the United States and or disconcern for other countries, or whatever the case may be. But in this particular case, this happened to be a burning of the American flag, and it was done by a veteran. And the veteran did it for a specific purpose, and that's because of a executive order that was wrote by Trump. And he felt it to be a violation of his freedom of speech, so he decided to just make a protest out of it, and this gentleman was arrested. But check this whole situation out. Tell me what you think. We may not agree with it, but again, it is his right.
Now, in terms of the federal takeover, we know the Trump administration has been touting the takeover or federal surge as the reason why D.C. crime has not only dropped in the district, but the reason why we've seen nearly 2 straight weeks of no homicides. But that did change. We learned within the past hour that D.C. police did have a fatal shooting in the southeast neighborhood of the district, where a man was shot just before 12:30 in the morning and ended up dying of his injuries. Southeast, unfortunately, an area that is often plagued by crime. Now, moving on, and the president leaning into his focus on D.C. crime, the federal surge, and the focus on the administration of law and order, he did announce a number of new executive orders, and we saw an arrest connected to this. You were just talking about it. A man arrested outside of the White House yesterday evening at around 6:30. He burned an American flag, and we don't know his name. What's going on, though, is that the president had just announced an executive order essentially prohibiting the burning of American flags. And so we believe that this action was done in protest of that. We don't know the man's name. We don't know if his arrest is in connection with the executive order. Right now, Park Police are telling us that the charge or the violation that he was found to have committed here is called prohibited fire. We also don't know the man's name. What we are told is that he is an Army combat veteran, and he did this action, burning the American flag, in protest just hours after these executive orders. So again, the president leaning into what he's been focused on already here, issued these number of executive orders. One of them seeks to have anyone who burns or desecrates an American flag be prosecuted and spend a year in jail.
Is flag burning protected by free speech?
Have you ever wondered if burning a flag is protected under free speech? This question brings us to a significant case in American history, Texas v. Johnson from 1989. The case centers around the idea of symbolic speech, which is a way to express thoughts and feelings without using words. This includes actions like flag burning, which can convey strong political messages. In Texas v. Johnson, Gregory Lee Johnson burned an American flag during a protest at the 1980 for Republican National Convention. He was charged with desecrating a venerated object. However, the Supreme Court took a closer look at this situation. The court ultimately ruled that flag burning is a form of symbolic speech protected by the First Amendment. This ruling is important because it highlights the liberal belief that political freedom and individual rights are essential. In a liberal society, people should be able to express dissent and challenge authority, even if their actions are controversial. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, which includes not just spoken or written words but also actions that convey meaning. The Supreme Court's decision in Texas v. Johnson aligns with these liberal principles. It affirms that individuals have the right to express their political views through unconventional means. This means that burning a flag as a form of protest is legally protected, as long as it does not harm others or break other laws.
Well, there you have it. So, the 1989 Supreme Court decision of Texas versus Johnson, that although we may not agree with it, it's an expression of speech and therefore should be protected by your First Amendment right. But with a stroke of the pen, Donald decided he's going to negate that Supreme Court decision. Well, he negates the Senate and the House all the time, with his executive orders. And there's one of them that, that kind of stuff should be going through people who know what the hell's going on. So that if you're going to try to pass some type of a law, at least it's within the scope that's not going to step on our Constitution or, tear it up like, boom, this guy likes to do, right? Anyhow, speaking of this guy over here, we do know that as soon as he got into office, he started deporting the hell out of people, and he came up with a whole bunch of ideas of what are we going to do with these people until we get them the hell out of our country. Well, why don't we send them to Guantanamo Bay? Why don't we send them here? Why don't we maybe send them to the old Alcatraz in San Francisco Bay? Too much cost involved in trying to renovate that to even house the kind of people that he wanted to house. But in any regard, so he decided, wow, I got an idea. We could go down into Florida, down into the Everglades, and we could create this thing called Alligator Alcatraz. And, well, unfortunately for Donald, a federal judge has said, no, you can't do that, and bye-bye to Alligator Alcatraz because you're violating too many environmental rights and other things that you should have, processes that you should have went through before you decided to start using it as some type of concentration camp or deportation camp, whatever the hell we want to term this, but check it out.
Alligator Alcatraz is to be shuttered. That's the decision of a federal judge in Florida. A coalition of environmental groups and a Native American tribe sued, arguing that the Trump administration bypassed necessary environmental reviews and risked irreparable harm to the Everglades ecosystem. On issuing her 82-page ruling, Judge Kathleen Williams agreed the controversial immigrant detention center violated environmental laws, noting that a plan to develop the same site into a massive tourist airport in the 1960s was rejected on the same grounds. She wrote, "This order does nothing more than uphold the basic requirements of legislation designed to fulfill those promises." The decision is a blow to President Donald Trump and his detention and deportation agenda. Trump toured the facility last month, touting it as a model for future lockups nationwide. But critics and relatives of those detained have denounced the facility's harsh conditions and lack of due process.
He has told me that the conditions inside are deplorable. The food is terrible. They keep the lights on all the time to keep them awake.
Now, Alligator Alcatraz will no longer be allowed to accept new detainees as it winds down its operations within the next 60 days. The site, home to as many as 1,400 people at one point, will have to transfer them to other facilities.
So apparently, yeah, there's another big waste of money. Yeah, you wonder how much it cost to beef that place up, and all the time they were violating all kinds of environmental rights. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that stuff, obviously. If you'd go into some of the Big Beautiful Bill, you'll see that he's trying to wipe out a whole lot of environmental impact laws. I'm not going to get into details, but take a look at the Big Beautiful Bill sometime. You might be surprised what's inside that thing. But anyhow, hey, speaking of what's going on, and especially in this current administration, we know that one of his plans was to immediately get rid of anybody who he would consider a illegal immigrant may have come across the border during the Biden regime, and get them out of here. But then he had this little organization that they came up with called ICE, and let's take a look at exactly what's going on with ICE and see ICE in action just for you on Tim's Tidbits.
Claro que yo no tengo nada, señor. Señor, por favor. Yo no debo nada, papi. Yo no debo nada. 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 Yo estoy trabajando. Yo no debo nada. 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 Yo trabajo. Yo quiero estar con mi familia. Yo quiero estar con mi familia. Yo vengo de trabajar. Por favor. Yo vengo de trabajar. Yo quiero estar con mi familia. Yo no soy criminal. Yo no soy criminal. Yo no soy criminal. Yo no soy criminal. Yo no soy criminal.
I'm not a criminal. I'm not a criminal. I'm here to work. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Those motherfuckers do not have a warrant. They do not present badges. They are masked men. And I know that they don't believe this, but the Constitution specifically and explicitly, and listen, for all you Federalist Society goons who are still out there, for all you Republican rule of law types who supposedly believe the Constitution is a sacred document, it says that all persons, not citizens, all persons in the United States are entitled to due process of law.
A shocking ICE arrest was caught on video in Chelsea. Take a look here. You can see federal agents, they just smashed the window of that SUV, and then they forced this man out of the car onto the ground. We're told ICE arrested this man with his wife and their child still inside the car. It happened after the family was leaving church and were intercepted by police agents and ICE agents. This is right near the Everett-Chelsea line. Now, we've reached out to ICE, but have not yet received a response.
Yeah. So, hey, yeah, just no warrants, no probable cause, and you're in custody. And you can prove your innocence once we get to the station or wherever the hell detention center they decide to take you. That's crazy. Yeah, the actions that are being taken against immigrants, legal and or illegal, and our U.S. citizens is really starting to push the boundaries. And this whole thing with deploying National Guard troops is really pushing it. But anyhow, hey, let's move on just a little bit, and there's something that I like to share with everybody, and that is, the inquiring minds moment. And that is, why do we want to know about Donald Trump's claim that he has brokered and or been a big part of 7 peace deals. And I think this is all part of his campaign that, he wants to get a Nobel Peace Prize. And I think, was it Denmark or one of the other countries, about a month ago or so, that not sent a letter of nomination for Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. But anyhow, and he's touting how he ended 7 different conflicts. And let's take a look at it. Let's fact check Donald's claim that he ended 7 conflicts.
Donald Trump repeatedly claims that he's ended 6 or sometimes 7 wars, stating in July that he was averaging about a war a month. Earlier this week, he referred to, quote, 6 wars that I've settled, and later said on Fox News that he'd solved 7 wars. The White House seems to go with the 7 figure, claiming that Trump had solved 5 conflicts in his current term and 2 during his first. This list ranges from the fair to the ridiculous, but Trump has nevertheless been touting his peacemaking credentials and has made very clear that he'd like to win a Nobel Peace Prize. Armenia-Azerbaijan is one of the more reasonable claims on Trump's list. The Armenian and Azerbaijani leaders signed a US-mediated peace declaration, but not peace treaty, at the White House in early August, alongside Trump. The 2 South Caucasus countries have been at odds with each other for more than 3 decades, and have fought a series of wars against each other, most recently in September 2023, when Azerbaijan conquered the breakaway territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. The Trump-brokered deal seeks to settle another persistent point of tension, that of Azerbaijan's access to its Nakhchivan exclave, which is separated from the rest of the country by Armenia. We've previously made a video about this, but the deal envisages a US-built and managed transport corridor connecting the territories called the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. It's notable that the US has managed to replace Russia as the region's main mediator, and the recent deal is definitely a step, but certainly not the final step, towards a conflict-settling peace agreement. However, several unresolved issues remain, including Azerbaijan's demand for Armenia to remove references to Nagorno-Karabakh from its constitution and the status of the more than 100,000 ethnic Armenians that fled Nagorno-Karabakh in 2023. The second conflict on the list is between the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DRC, and Rwanda, and Rwandan-backed M23 rebels. Trump celebrated what he called a glorious triumph back in June, when Congolese and Rwandan representatives came to Washington to sign a US and Qatar-mediated peace deal aimed at ending an intractable decades-long series of conflicts that has devastated the eastern DRC. While the United Nations commended the US for its role and welcomed the, quote, significant step towards de-escalation, peace and stability, the implementation of the agreement has unfortunately faltered, and the conflict is far from over. Additionally, M23 was not part of the agreement, and was instead meant to finalise its own peace deal with the DRC, with Qatari mediation, by August the 18th, which has come and gone. Despite the ongoing peace process, armed groups, including Rwandan-backed M23, continue fighting, with reports emerging of recent mass killings by M23. Next up is Israel-Iran, which is one of the stranger ones given that Trump actually joined Israel in its bombing of Iran in June. The 12-day conflict between the longtime foes began with surprise Israeli strikes on Iran on the 13th of June, with the US then bombing Iranian nuclear facilities on the 22nd of June, before Trump abruptly announced a ceasefire between Israel and a weakened Iran.
What better way to promote peace than bombing somebody? Come on.
While this ceasefire has held, the wider Israel-Iran conflict has not been solved. Israel is still battling various Iranian-backed groups like the Houthis and Hamas, and says it could strike Iran again if it tries to rebuild its nuclear program. Meanwhile, talks between the US and Iran over its nuclear program remain broken off. The fourth conflict is between India and Pakistan, whose militaries clashed for 4 days in May in a conflict sparked by a deadly terrorist attack in Indian-administered Kashmir. A ceasefire brought the clashes to an end, with Trump saying it was the result of a long night of talks mediated by the United States. Pakistan also emphasized the US's involvement, calling it a decisive diplomatic intervention. India, however, has downplayed US involvement, in keeping with its long-standing public opposition to outside mediation in relation to Kashmir, instead saying that the ceasefire was negotiated directly and bilaterally with Pakistan. Even if we assume that the US was involved to the extent that the US and Pakistan say it was, this is, again, a ceasefire, obviously a very important step, but not one that addressed any of the underlying points of tension between the two countries. Next up is the Thailand-Cambodia conflict, which is the final one we'll look at for Trump's current term. The two Southeast Asian neighbours have a long-running border dispute, which erupted into days of fighting in late July. The talks that brought about a ceasefire in this conflict were actually mediated by Malaysia. However, Trump has been credited with helping drive these to a successful conclusion by warning the Cambodian and Thai leaders that the US may end trade talks with the two US export-orientated countries if they didn't stop fighting. As for the two conflicts that Trump claims to have solved in his first term, Ethiopia-Egypt and Serbia-Kosovo, these are perhaps the most egregious claims, as neither actually involved active conflicts. Egypt's long-standing dispute with Ethiopia over the latter's building of a massive hydroelectric dam on the Nile is a major source of tensions, and Trump's first-term attempt at bringing about a settlement was unsuccessful, so the tensions still persist. As for Serbia-Kosovo, he did broker an economic normalization agreement in 2020, but diplomatic normalization has still not been achieved. So overall, Trump's claims clearly don't really add up. Even in the most valid examples where credit is due, we're still not talking about full peace agreements. We're talking about ceasefires and declarations, which shouldn't be downplayed, but they don't usually address the underlying factors and therefore need sustained diplomatic attention to ensure effective implementation and further progress towards ultimate peace. So
he's really 0 for 7. He may have brokered a ceasefire temporarily, or a little downplay in the action, but 7 peace deals, apparently, from this fact-checking, never happened. We also, you heard that this little scuttlebutt, I guess, that Donald would love to get his image on Mount Rushmore. Right, next to Lincoln, Washington, and would see, I don't know where they'd fit him in. Maybe Roosevelt. I don't know. One of them move aside. I don't know. I believe he'd probably just love to fly over top of that South Dakota city there, look down from his $400 million that the U.S. is investing in, $400 million in that Quintar jet that he's going to be flying around in. Oh, yeah, and then it'll be going to his library. But in any regards, flying over top of Mount Rushmore and seeing his image down there, this guy is just a trip. And so I decided, hearing all this scuttlebutt about, is it possible that they could even put Trump's image up on Mount Rushmore? Because who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? With the way this administration gets shit done, they could... but maybe destroy all the other images that are up there and just put his up. I have no freaking clue. But in any regards, let's take a look and fact-check the idea. Can we actually put Donald Trump's image up on Mount Rushmore? Is there room for Donnie?
Mount Rushmore, an American icon.
Did it just blow your mind? It was a little overwhelming when you first see it.
Untouched for more than 80 years, there is now an effort by some supporters of Donald Trump to add his face to the monument.
I think history is going to show that he's in the same pantry.
Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has a bill in Congress that would add Trump to Mount Rushmore. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum left open the possibility.
Will we ever see President Trump's face on Mount Rushmore? What do you think?
Well, they certainly have room for it.
But the practical reality is much different. Dan Wenk is the former superintendent at Mount Rushmore.
You can't change somebody's work of art.
Over the years, people have proposed adding faces to the sculpture, from Susan B. Anthony to Ronald Reagan. Wenk says the answer is always the same.
It doesn't matter because it can't be done.
But aside from the historic, political, and artistic reasons against changing Mount Rushmore, there's one big barrier, and it's non-negotiable.
I wouldn't want to be messing with Mount Rushmore.
From an engineering and geological perspective, adding any face is near impossible. A close look shows the mountain filled with deep fractures, like this massive fracture that runs right by Washington's head. Paul Nelson, an engineer who worked on the mountain, warns any new carving could cause serious damage.
But it's not something that can be messed with. Is that fair to say?
No. Yeah, I wouldn't want to start blasting or carving rock.
While the mountain looks deep and wide from the front, a side view reveals a massive valley behind the sculpture, leaving very little room to carve. For perspective, Roosevelt's head is 100 feet behind the original granite.
You have to remove so much rock that once you remove the rock to get something competent, there's just not any rock left.
For Dan Wenk, the conversation is fine, as long as that's where it ends.
I love controversy.
He's like, bring it on. Yeah.
Bring it on. It doesn't matter how worthy someone is. If the rock is not there, you can't carve them.
Putting an end to this age-old debate, at least for now.
There we go, folks. No, Donald, you cannot have your image up on Mount Rushmore, no matter how hard you try. There ain't no more room. Anyhow, hey, let's move on to something I found quite interesting. And in California, I think it was California, they caught this booster ring. Boosters, people go in and boost out of the your shop, stealing sticky fingers, stealing items. Anyhow, this particular group of boosters acquired themselves nearly $10 million worth of merchandise boosting. Check this on out. It's a trip.
Eric, it's incredible. That press conference just wrapping up a few minutes ago, and we understood from the sheriff, from the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, that their task force was responsible for taking down a criminal enterprise that allegedly stole over $10 million of merchandise at multiple different Home Depots in the past couple of years. I want to bring in Sheriff Freihoff. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations to the hard work of your task force. Tell us a little bit about this criminal enterprise that you said is unlike any other case you've seen before.
The level of sophistication for this crew is something that we've never seen.
Yeah.
There was over 71 Home Depots hit over 500 times over the past 5-6 months, right? That's over in collective loss over $10 million. We seized $3.7 million worth of property when we did our raids on August 14th. This is unlike anything we've ever seen. Very sophisticated crews. They were stealing daily. They never took a day off. These booster crews never took one single day off. Every single day they hit Ventura County. They would hit all of our stores here in Ventura County to the tune of $6,000 to $10,000 a day that they were stealing from our Home Depots.
And Home Depots in Ventura County, in LA County, San Bernardino, I mean, we're seeing images from Home Depot of them stealing stuff as we speak. And like you said, this was a daily operation.
Daily operation from San Luis Obispo south, right? This went all the way to San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino counties. This crew was relentless in their willingness to steal from all of our businesses and then sell it on either eBay or Amazon or out of their warehouse for just straight cash. So it's no different than stealing from the register. They're taking property and then selling it for a reduced rate.
Yeah. Now, we have some images of those folks who were arrested. You brought us out here today to announce that you've made these arrests. You've also put forth criminal charges. What are we talking about? Who? And there's a ringleader, right? There's a leader of this criminal enterprise.
Yeah, so David All was the fence, right? So he was the lead person that was receiving all the stolen goods from these different booster crews that were delivering it to his either business or to his home, and then he was then selling them out of his business. His ex-wife was also running a similar fencing operation, and his brother-in-law was also then selling things on Amazon and eBay. Very well orchestrated operation and to the tunes of millions of dollars.
And these were things like dimmers and breakers, things that you and I could have found and bought online, presumably from this man.
Absolutely. These are the things that we all need. Switches, dimmers, every use for home. Certainly contractors are buying this in bulk, but if you go on Amazon or you're on eBay and you're like, oh, I need a dimmer switch, I can buy it here. Wow, it's half price. I'm going to buy that. Well, it was all just stolen property that they were.
Ripping them off blind. They got their asses caught, but wow. They're never going to ever recover $10 million worth of merchandise. I wonder how they're going to, in Ventura County, so that's just north of Los Angeles. $10 million worth of merchandise. How are they going to, even if they seize their assets or their bank accounts, I'm sure these guys have done something with that cash. Who knows? Speaking of, let's look into something good for a change. And I caught this on one of the networks, and I thought this would be real interesting to share and interesting to promote out. And that is what they are going to call a food rescue program. And if you don't have one in your city yet, and I think this would be a good idea to invoke this type of a service in your city. And I'm sure that if you got a hold of this organization, they would tell you exactly how to do it and do it right, and give it a shot and check this out.
In the United States, we throw away nearly 40% of our food supply. It's over 150 billion pounds of food. And we're here at the wholesale point in the supply chain, rescuing millions of pounds of edible surplus before it ends up in landfills. It's insane. It's like right together.
You look at these displays in grocery stores, there's this thought of how does all of that get bought in a day? And the truth is, it doesn't. We have to make our operations as easily accessible for food businesses as possible. That's what we've become over time, kind of like this social waste management process that comes before the food is bad. We're there to take it not only off their hands and off their loading docks, but off their waste bills and get them tax credits. It's one of those no-brainer solutions that really is just a matter of us getting to more places and to more businesses.
Now we're a global movement. We fed over 10 million people and provided over 100 million meals to communities in need.
We're able to pick up surplus produce from manufacturers across the country where all they need is a truck to pick it up.
We're redistributing fresh and healthy food to organizations that are feeding community members.
Now that we're providing over 1 million meals every week, I want it to be something that goes beyond just food. We're here to scale human compassion.
All righty, folks. Yep, something you should be getting involved with, a food rescue program. Any community could use that. We have needy in every community. I don't care if you have 10 million people in your community or 10 people in your community. Somebody's in need, and we could always help if we could at least put forth the effort. It's there for free. All you have to do is put in a little bit of E. Let's give that a shot. Anyhow, hey, another thing I came across, and I always thought about this as a young kid when you go to visit the ice cream shop. Couldn't wait to go to the ice cream shop, get a milkshake, a banana split, What kid doesn't love hitting the ice cream shop? But apparently in this one particular ice cream shop in Addison, there was a whole lot more going on in the ice cream shop that shouldn't have been by the owner.
The Flavor Frenzy ice cream shop is now closed indefinitely. The owner, Stephen Weisberg, was denied pretrial release and is currently being held at the DuPage County Jail, voluntarily surrendering his business license.
It just seemed like a fun job, right? Like, I'm in high school. It was my first job, and it was an ice cream shop. Who doesn't want to work at an ice cream shop in the summer?
Raina Ashrafi worked at the Flavor Frenzy ice cream shop in Addison from March to September 2024 when she was 16 years old. Her boss, 58-year-old Stephen Weisberg of Buffalo Grove, is now charged with 2 counts of child pornography and unauthorized video recording after police say they received an anonymous tip and found a hidden camera in his store bathroom.
I felt sick and gross and just like, I kind of felt dumb, I guess, because I don't know how I didn't know.
Ashrafi says Weisberg asked female employees to model store T-shirts for the Flavor Frenzy website.
He would hand you a bag of a couple T-shirts, a couple tank tops, and then another bag that had 2 or 3 bras in it. And then he would tell you to go in the bathroom, put on this shirt and this bra. And it made sense what he was saying because he made it seem relatable. He was like, I have a daughter, I know like certain bras look better on certain shirts.
I see the FBI here because I know their cars. And they told me what happened, but they say, someone, we're going to take care of it later. And next day when I come here, I see him arrested and they took him away.
Simon Tuma, who manages the shopping complex, tells us Weisberg owned this ice cream shop for the last 5 years and tells us he was shocked.
I found out from police everything. What it was on his telephone, what it was in his laptop. It's sad. I feel sorry for his wife and his daughter.
Addison police say they found 11 videos on Weisberg's cell phone depicting 6 individuals, at least 3 of them store employees, 1 a 16-year-old girl. Since then, 4 other teen employees have come forward.
But obviously, he's a sick man, and I feel bad for his entire orbit because he didn't just ruin his own life and affect the lives of all these young girls. I mean, his family, his friends, his neighbors. And so just the impact is massive, and I hope he doesn't sleep well thinking about that.
Yeah, sick individual. And yeah, these teenage girls, and yeah, the invasion of their privacy, and yeah, who knows what he was doing to those particular images. Yeah, he'll get what he deserved. Yeah, that's definitely a tarnished tarnishment on the ice cream industry. No, hey, don't be afraid to drop into your local ice cream shop. Just don't agree to try on one of their promotional T-shirts. Go into the bathroom and try that on for me. Crazy, unbelievable, sick people. Hey, I have another one I wanted to share with you, and this didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, so I had heard the term, and because I didn't quite understand what the hell they were talking about, I went and I looked it up, and I thought I would share this with you. And have you ever, and you know, when you book on airlines, a lot of people may have a preference, anything but the center seat. They may like the aisle seat, or they may like the window seat. And for you people who are window seat people, how about if you have booked yourself a window seat, but it is actually a windowless window seat?
Imagine how you'd feel shelling out that extra cash for a window seat just to find yourself looking at a blank wall for the whole flight. Well, that's what these lawsuits allege. Now, United and Delta are facing separate class action lawsuits about this issue. Take a look. This is what a passenger says their view looked like when they got to their so-called window seat. What's missing here? That's because some airlines describe every seat along the side of the plane as a window seat, but the lawsuits claim that other airlines, like American and Alaska, warn passengers or flag those seats about so-called windowless window seats. But these airlines didn't flag them during the booking process. And so passengers say they paid fees, get this, from $30 to more than $100 to have a window view, to look at clouds and look at sky, but only see walls. The lawsuits claim the airlines have sold millions of these seats, and they say passengers who bought them should get their money
I just
back.
realized I've sat in one of those seats.
I just did.
But I was also just sleeping, so it didn't matter. All types of aircraft.
So, George, it's a very nuanced and good question, because a lot of us book on certain flights and certain carriers, right, to know the plane, right? So this is on both Airbus and Boeing. They all have seats just like this.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
There you go, people. So be careful when you're booking your reservations on these two particular airlines, and especially if you like a window seat, it could be windowless. Okay. Anyhow, hey, let me move on to it. And this is something that's just starting to really bother me, because one of my big passions is national parks. I love the national parks. I've been to many of them. Absolutely gorgeous, you know. And, yeah, as Theodore Roosevelt said when he put up the archway to Yellowstone, it's for the people, for the people's enjoyment. And not for the government to come in and rape and pillage whatever they can, or, you know, degrade whatever they can. Or, speaking of degrading, and that is exactly what they're doing, especially since Doge came in, and tons of layoffs within the national parks, which is going to affect the visitors. And there's some also talk about, you know, within the national parks, maybe we could utilize some of the resources that are within the national park. These national parks are protected. They should stay protected. And please, 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 people, you know, hey, if you hear any more of this going on, jump on this. This is one we should all get on board. I don't care what you are associating yourself with, Republican, Democrat, socialist, non-socialist, federalist, who cares, independent. You should be concerned about this, everybody, because this is a legacy we want to leave to our children and our grandchildren.
If there's one thing Democratic and Republican voters can agree on, it's how much we love our national parks. But our national parks are under assault. Majestic public lands like the Grand Canyon, Shenandoah, Yellowstone, we can all come together to appreciate the beauty of Yosemite, even if some of us pronounce it a little differently.
When they gaze upon Yosemites,
For over 100 years, the National Park Service has been tasked with conserving America's wonders. Our national parks, monuments, and historic battlefields, which span 85 million acres in all 50 states, are public goods to be shared and enjoyed by all Americans. There's a reason why the U.S. park system has been called America's best idea, which is why it's so infuriating that Trump and Republicans are taking an axe to the National Park Service budget.
The motion is adopted.
President Trump's one big beautiful bill just cut another $267 million from the national parks budget.
Their cuts will hit park operations the hardest, likely reducing hours of operation and leading to thousands of layoffs. That means fewer park rangers to guide tourists, conserve park lands, and much more.
These are the people that sell you tickets, give you programs, rescue you from trails if you fall and break your ankle.
Our parks provide educational opportunities for students. They give us low-cost places to hike, camp, and fish. They preserve important cultural resources like historic buildings and archaeological dig sites. And these cuts won't just be bad for people who want to visit our national parks, they'll be bad for our economy too.
The communities around Yosemite depend on the tourists. If they close the park, businesses are going to close.
In 2023, total visitor spending in communities surrounding our national parks hit a record $56 billion and supported 415,000 jobs. The National Park System's entire budget was just $3.6 billion. That's some return on investment. Taking away National Park services from the public simply doesn't make sense.
To save virtually no money from the federal budget, we're devastating one of America's treasures.
Our parks belong to all of us as Americans. That's part of what makes them beautiful. And they will be gutted so Trump can offer bigger tax cuts to his billionaire friends. With our national parks, as with other public goods, our responsibility is to protect them for ourselves and for future generations.
I'm telling you, people, keep an eye on this, because there's a lot of different things besides cutting the budget by $267 million. That's having a drastic impact, just like the video was discussing. But they're talking about some of the minerals that are available in some of these lands, and they want to start mining for these minerals. These are some of the regulations that Trump's rolling back when it comes to environmental impact. Keep an eye on this. Let's move on to another area that I know everybody likes to discuss, and that is like, dude, what the fuck? Doesn't blow my mind, folks. I have to share it with you. I have to say it was just absolutely amazing to me. That this administration is going into the various museums and trying to negate, the atrocities that were during the slavery days, and they're talking that that's too woke. And they have removed some of the contents, or they have rewrote some of the contents even in some of these museums. But in that regards, I wanted to share a little bit something with you that now is out, and it's an educational video that they're sharing in some schools. Yes, I said they are sharing this in some schools. I want you to watch this educational video that is being shown in some school systems and get your opinion on it.
Jolene, Kevin, this all stems from a now viral national news interview where Broken Arrow Republican Representative Gabe Woolley defended the video and the curriculum. Opponents argue it's not appropriate for kids.
The animated PragerU Kids series, approved for use in Oklahoma classrooms, starts with two kids, Leo and Layla, questioning why some schools no longer celebrate Columbus Day and have shifted to Indigenous Peoples Day or Native American Day. They travel back in time and ask Christopher Columbus himself.
I'm sorry, Mr. Columbus, but I heard at school that you spoiled paradise and you brought slavery and murder to peaceful people.
The cartoon explorer defends himself, telling the children he brought Christianity and Western civilization to new lands. He calls some Indians he met highly intelligent, but describes others as vicious, warring cannibals. Brett Chapman, a descendant of Native American civil rights leader and Ponca chief Standing Bear, calls it racist propaganda.
They portray it as he's like very scholarly and learned, and superior to, basically cannibals.
He adds Columbus represents something at the heart of why indigenous solidarity is important to him: colonization.
It started this long chain of events, right, that justified the erasure of Native Americans, the stealing of their land.
The video also shows cartoon Columbus defending slavery, calling it as old as time.
Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no? I don't see the problem.
Cartoon Columbus adding it's not fair to judge him for what our culture and society has now decided it's against, and there's only one person free of mistakes.
Only my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is perfect.
It's just sad, man, and it's disgusting.
It's community activist J.B. Williams' take, but the material does have supporters.
I see something here that's historically accurate.
Like Broken Arrow Republican Representative Gabe Woolley, making an appearance on MSNBC just days ago to defend the content he said he showed to former students.
It can be used if you want to use it or not.
Woolley also said he believes the slavery remarks are being misconstrued.
I think what they're alluding to is that if you're still alive, you have the opportunity for change and for freedom and for reformation to come.
The video doesn't leave any room for other voices. The video doesn't leave any room for us to even assume anything else but that what happened was okay, and none of it was okay.
I told you, can you imagine? That's happening in Oklahoma. Then you had that representative there from the city of, that's a city of Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow is a city in Oklahoma. Validating that, that's okay to sell that to the kids. And you're in tribal land besides, and you're selling some shit like that. But I don't know what to say. I'd love to hear your comments on that particular video, and I would hope that never creeps its way up to the Buckeye State. Because, then I will have something to say about that. I will not have my children, grandchildren watching that BS. Anyhow, hey, let's move on to another part of the show that everybody really appreciates, and that is who is going to get this week's Asshole Merit Badge. Well, if anybody utilizes, the services of Lyft and or Uber, they might not be too happy with some of the rules and regulations that each independent driver, because they are independent drivers. We've had a lot of discussions on the different things that can happen in an Uber and a Lyft situation. But I don't think this guy was quite expecting this to happen.
This morning, the rideshare rumble sparking urgent questions about safety. Watch as this Uber driver gets out of his car and knocks a passenger to the ground while holding a service animal.
It happens so suddenly, but the attack is so vicious, so inhumane.
It was supposed to be a routine night for Brian Cobell, a biotech CEO from South Carolina. He and a friend and his licensed service dog Piper ordered an Uber just after dinner in downtown Charleston.
The gentleman said, no pets. I said, she's not a pet, she's a service animal, just to clarify. He said, no pets. I said, look, she's a service animal, so it doesn't really fall under that again.
According to his complaint, Cobell says the driver, 42-year-old Vadim Ulumdashiev, a Russian national authorities say is living in the U.S. illegally, refused to allow a service animal in his car. Surveillance video capturing Ulumdashiev storming out of his Audi and headbutting and punching Cobell as bystanders watched in horror. The Uber driver fled.
Someone just punched someone and fell on the ground, and his head is bleeding from the back. We need someone immediately.
Cobell rushed to the hospital.
I had a split upper lip, and then I had 7 staples across the top of my head, as well as 4 stitches in there. And then internally, I had a severe concussion, which took quite some time to recover from.
Ulumdashiev eventually arrested and charged with second-degree assault and battery, and is now in federal custody at an ICE detention facility as immigration authorities begin deportation proceedings. Cobell is now suing Uber for negligence, claiming the company put profits ahead of passenger safety. by hiring Ulum Deshiev with an alleged fake driver's license, questioning the rideshare giant's vetting system. Ulum Deshiev's attorney telling ABC News that the driver's license is legit and the video doesn't tell the full story, and she intends to defend her client vigorously.
I don't know how you defend that, but in any regards, that was crazy. I don't think you expect your Lyft driver, Uber driver, whatever the particular third party involved in that one was, your rideshare, to punch you in the face because you have a service animal. Well deserved, asshole of the week. Congratulations. Anyhow, hey, I am out of here. I hope I put a little bit of a smile on your face this evening, or maybe caught you up with some of the crap that you did not know was going on. And just going into your weekend, have a great weekend. It seems like fall's starting to creep in here up north a little bit. Been a bit chilly, but hey, we'll have another warm up before it's all said and done, before we actually officially hit fall. But otherwise, hey, going into this weekend, I just want you guys to have a good time, enjoy yourselves, and until next week, I'll holla people. Bye-bye now.
She served her time for barely a crime, and when she got asked, she said nothing happened, and said she liked Trump, that he's no chump, and said he's a gentleman. She likes puppies and aging yuppies, and spends her time mentoring gals. She's so European with hair lesbian, and has just the wealthiest of pals. She's Ghislaine Maxwell. She keeps her promises and never will tell. She's Ghislaine Maxwell.
So you want me to say this part about him being a gentleman? That won't be too obvious. He is known for grabbing pussies. Is he not?
I think gentleman is good. Maybe distinguished gentleman with muscular physique.
Are you trying to get me to do life in prison?
Look, it would be helpful if you mentioned that Trump never did what Jeffrey did.
Is the DOJ asking me to lie? You know, I would love to think about this in a much friendlier prison.
I think that can be arranged.
Isn't this great? The president thinks she will be much more comfortable here. Oh look, High School Musical is on. Your favorite. Ooh. A hot tub. Tennis lessons tomorrow at 10 a.m. Oh, look, the warden came to welcome you.
Hello, ladies. This the pedophile enabler. Hello, welcome to our facility. I booked you a spa appointment. So you never saw Trump with young girls?
Never. His diaper odor was much too musky for the girls to tolerate.
Warden, I saw the files. They don't exist. They were on my desk.
Thank the president for his generous hospitality. I'm leaving a wonderful Yelp review.
All right, men. I want you to meet the new co-deputy director of the FBI, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's here to work alongside Dan Bongino. Part of her work release from puppy prison.
My first order as co-deputy director of the FBI is to close the case on the Epstein files. Do you mind doing the paperwork, Dan? I have a pickleball match to get to. Yes, darling. Our pinochle game on Wednesday. I know. Can you get me Sydney Sweeney's phone number? How old? Never mind.
love what you've done with the place. The Trump administration sent me to help you adjust, but it doesn't look like you need much help adjusting.
Thank you, darling.
He asked me to remind you that there's some rope and a step stool in the closet. Some things are better left in the closet.
Can y'all pay attention to my toes? I want good summer feet. I believe you, Ghislaine, and I'm not one who believes many conspiracies. So tell your Jew Epstein to materialize.
He's busy manning the laser.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
Pardon me?
I said, how is the prison resort? Pam said you skipped bingo.
No, I was saying pardon me, as in give me a pardon.
Oh, we gotta wait a little more on that. Until I secure there will be no midterms.
Well, maybe you could move me to an even softer prison. Something on the French Riviera.
We'll see. Hey, I got this thing on my hand. Do you know anyone who does hand jobs?
Cash and Pam have my address book. Just look in the hand job section. There are some very handy girls in there.
Okay, hang in there, Ghislaine. It won't be long.
Maybe don't use the words hang in there, Mr. President.
President Putin, your war in Ukraine has left Russia an isolated military economy. Hundreds of thousands of talented young people have left Russia, and your country is now basically an appendage of China. I have to ask you, was it worth it? My sweet summer child, let me tell you old Russian joke. Genie comes to peasant and says, I will grant you one wish, whatever you like. Peasant says, anything I like? Genie says, da, anything you like, on one condition. Whatever I give to you, I will give twice as much of it to your neighbor. Peasant looks over at his freaking neighbor and says to Genie, okay, pluck out my eye. Pluck out my... You get it? Because if he plucks the one eye, then the neighbor gets both of the...